Australia, or should we say Australia? Delighted to be back, privileged to be back. Thank you to Ashley, to Luke, to Phil for having me here again, and for those of you that have stayed. For the people that have left already, by the way, they're going to miss the answer, so you'll be delighted that you stayed. So yes, I am going to bring out my crystal ball. Before I do that, I'm just going to share a little bit about me, because you don't all know me, you weren't all here last year. I've been practicing customer centricity for 40 years, actually 41 years. Now, I left school, I went to work for my father, retail opticians, top left-hand corner there, in a marketing role. My dad was brilliant at selling sunglasses and glasses long before Specsavers, Vision Express, or any of those big household name brands even existed. I got involved in the old internet, right-hand side, quite early. 1997, I built a website in the sports trade, and then I built a business that built websites, because I thought if I need a website, everyone's going to need a website. I think I suffered what you Australians call tall poppy syndrome. Got a wee bit ahead of myself with a flashy Mercedes, W66 for web, WWW for World Wide Web. That business unfortunately crashed and burned. I decided to go back to a career. I moved to London to head up home shopping for Harrods, and subsequently became Burberry's first head of online in Europe. I ran online for Pentland Brands, who are a multi-brand owner, and then Ted Baker. After that, I set up a consulting and advisory business called Practicology, and I came to Australia for the first time in 2010. I did a keynote at the online retailer, and I've been coming back ever since. This is my 26th time in your beautiful country. I come from a little island called the UK. You might have heard of it. Used to be significant once, maybe less so these days. We sold the business back in 2018 to a company called Pattern that you might have heard of. And these days, in addition to doing talks, in addition to doing education, I have a mini MBA, which I'll talk about in a minute. I have the privilege of being a board advisor for a couple of Australian businesses, Marketplacer, and also Afterpay, who I've been involved with for 4 years. I'm on the board of a charity called In Kind Direct, and I also chair the retail arm of the Scouts in the UK. I've written 2 books on the subject of customer centricity. They're both doing quite well. It's not Harry Potter, right? They don't sell the hundreds of thousands, but they're selling a few thousand. I run a mini MBA course with a college in Oxford, and I also have this product called an MBA in a day, which some of you I had the privilege of spending time with yesterday, going through that. I've just become a visiting lecturer at the University of Strathclyde Business School, and as a man who left school and went straight to work for his father and didn't go to university, I promise you my teachers will be turning in their graves at the prospect of me lecturing at a formal academic establishment. The next cohort of my mini MBA is in September 23, just in case anybody's interested. If you are in the UK or you're occasionally over there, you'll occasionally see my ugly mug popping up on BBC, Sky, and other well-known broadcast outlets. I also do mystery shopping, right? So I'm sure you'll agree, using virtual reality and augmented reality, and the CoverGirl store in Times Square look very fetching in that particular shade of eyeliner and lipstick. And we'll talk more about that in a minute when we talk about experiential retail. So I'm going to start with my Mystic Martin segment. I'm going to give you my view of some of the things that I think are going to be really important in the next 7 years. But then I'm going to give you something even more powerful. I'm going to give you 10 new ROIs to take back to your business that I think can change your future prospects and make you even more successful. So that's what Mystic Martin looks like. And the good thing about future gazing and predicting what's going to come down the line is none of you will have any idea whether I'm right or not. You might remember somewhere down the line, I don't know. You might hold me to account. So the first thing I'm going to share is that shift happens. That was the first joke. You don't all have to laugh at it at one time. The problem with shift and the problem with technology is we do tend to overestimate its impact in the short term, but we underestimate its impact in the long term. In other words, we think it's going to change everything instantaneously. It just takes longer than we really think to get there, but when we do get there, the change is just so all-consuming. It changes everything. So the key things I think we need to be focusing on between now and 2026, experiential retail. I'm probably not going to tell you anything that was going to come as a shock, But we've been talking about experiential retail for quite a long time. And I'd love you to have a think about, just in your own minds, how many retailers do you go into today in Australia that you think that was an absolutely amazing experience? Those guys are just so engaging. I want to go back, even if I'm not going to buy something, right? There's not too many retailers at the moment, I think, that have really stepped up to the plate to deliver the type of experience that's been alluded to earlier that we're looking for. I do think the brands are going to go from being mono. If you're a mono brand, you're going to become a marketplace. And if you're already a multiple seller of other people's brands, you're still probably going to become a marketplace. Who would have imagined that Marks and Spencer or Next in the UK, if you'd gone to their boards 5 years ago and said, you should sell other people's brands, they'd have kicked you out of town, right? They would have laughed at you. They might have got a bit angry and said, don't be ridiculous. Such is the power of our own brand. And today, both of those brands are marketplaces. And M&S has turned around its performance, I think, in the last couple of years, primarily off the back of now offering a significant number of brands. Because if you do go to the UK, you'll find that their food is fantastic. And they've never lost that. They've always grown their share of the food sector. But the other side of their business, fashion and homewares, has gradually over time become less relevant to younger consumers. So by adding new brands, they've increased their relevance. Everyone's talking at the moment about Web 3.0, right? Web 3.0. The metaverse. The metaverse is coming. I shall talk about that in a minute. I don't think we're at Web 3.0. I think we're at Web 2.5. And I think that we still have a job to do, even before we worry about the metaverse, to work out how do we leverage content to deliver a better experience on our own websites? How do we start to provide more advice to drive engagement, to make it easier for people to make purchase decisions? The next thing is hyper-local, okay? I think what's happened in retail is a lot of retailers have lost sight of what it means to have a localized proposition, to be relevant for the needs of local customers. Some of you probably work for some quite big organizations with your headquarters, your head offices. Some of you work there, and you make all the big decisions about the products that are sold, the marketing messages and everything else. And that's great. Economies of scale is important. But we've taken all the power away from the shopkeepers, the people who are closer to customers, who can give better levels of service, who can offer discounts, who can think up new promotions, who can, well, it's a rainy day today, I'm going to re-merchandise the store. I'm going to push all the rainwear to the front of the store. I'm going to have umbrellas at the till because I'm going to sell more products. And we've taken all that ability, I think, away from the people running our stores to make those sorts of decisions. I think that social commerce is going to be the primary entry point for most businesses. So like it or not, most consumers are actually going to find you probably through some form of social commerce, or at least that might be the entry point into your website. I think that we need to move from just selling stuff to services, right? So from sales to services, not just to providing great service, but providing ways that are going to bring consumers back. You know, if you think about probably the best retention campaign, marketing retention campaign of all time, Amazon Prime, right? You give me more money, right? This is Amazon talking now. You give me more money, and I'll send you as many orders as you want over the course of the year, right? Pay me $100 or whatever it is. Oh, and I'll keep adding value because I'll keep adding content and entertainment, and I'll keep adding product categories, which gives you even more reasons to want to come back to me. So Amazon Prime, I think at the heart of it is a service-orientated proposition. We've been talking about personalization, and I'll talk about this later. We've been talking about personalization and customization for as long as I can remember. CRM is a term that, as far as I can recall, started doing the rounds around about 1999, 2000. How many brands do you buy from online today that are actually building relationships with you? Customer relationship management? Seriously, who's building a relationship? You're getting spammed, right? Probably on a daily basis. And some of you may be doing that as well. So we've got a way to go there. Acquisition to retention. Now, I'm not going to bore you with AI because everyone's going to talk about AI and we're all consumed about it. And there's no question AI is already and will continue to have a fundamental impact on our lives and on how we sell things. But I do think it's going to play a bigger role in moving us more towards retention, building customer lifetime value, not only focusing on bringing people in the top of the funnel. And internationalization. I know you're in Australia, but there's the whole world to go after. So where might you take your brands? Where might you find opportunity in new territories? So these are the things I think are going to really be primary to focus on in the next 3 years. And then after that, I've just got a couple of things. The metaverse. So if you're selling sneakers today, if you're selling fancy sneakers like Mark is wearing, then I think the metaverse might be the place for you right now. You could probably make quite good money on there because your customers are spending time and money on there already. There's been very effective collaborations between Nike and various artists that have generated a lot of money. But the reality is, if you're a middle-of-the-road brand targeting older people like me, then I don't think you're going to find too many of us on the metaverse anytime soon. And then AR and VR. I gave the example of me going into that, into the CoverGirl store in Times Square. You know, we've been talking about, again, augmented reality and virtual reality, and it's been in play for a long time, but you don't see a lot of that at the moment in retail, do you? Right? And yet it's got such a powerful opportunity to really change the experience within a retail store, to give us access to more content and a much richer 3D metaverse type experience. But I just feel like this is further down the line. Where are we today? We can buy anything. We can buy it anytime. We can buy it any place. And we can buy it from anyone, can't we? And if we have a bad experience with one brand, we've got 10,000 options, just a few taps of our fingers away on our mobile phone. Have a look at this video. It's a few years old now, but I think it's very relevant and gives you a good idea of how the balance of power has shifted from the brands to the consumer.
Did you hear that? That's the balance of power changing. We are your neighbors, your brothers and sisters, co-workers, kids, your grandmothers. We're the driver sitting at the red light next to you, the other passengers on the plane. And now we have the power. It used to be Madison Avenue, census data, focus groups, secret shoppers. It used to be jingles, endorsements, infomercials, coupons. It used to be the customer is always right, said those who didn't listen. But that was yesterday. Today, we found our voice. We are strangers, but we are organized. We won't wait for your big data. We want whatever, whenever, wherever. 9 to 5. We live 24 hours a day. We are a moving target. We move fast. We are a movement. We are cutting cords, changing the way things work. Status quo, status no. We brought down the taxi industry, but we are not the enemy. We are your opportunity. We are growing, getting better at getting better. We are your path to success, if you can keep up with us. We'll be on the winning team because we'll pick the winners. We are not millennials. We are families with more Facebook followers than you. We are not baby boomers. We are grandmothers who order Christmas gifts from a touchscreen. Gen X. Gen Y? No. We are Generation CX. And you can be too. If you listen to us, create for us, join us. Generation CX.
Love that video. Generation CX. Relevant to all segments of customers, right? It's not just a younger thing. It's not just about Gen Z. It's Generation CX. And yet, did you know that across the whole of retail, right? Across the whole of retail, every retail sector, only 28% of consumers actually make a second purchase. That's quite a frightening statistic when you hear it out loud. Or what about frequency? Mark talked about frequency earlier. The average purchase frequency in most categories is anything from 1 to 4. Maybe in fast fashion, it might be a bit higher, I'm sure, in the likes of Zara, but it's really low, and I think there are reasons for that. According to the Harvard Business Review, a 5% increase in customer retention leads to a 25 to 95% increase in profitability. So just move the needle a tiny bit on customer retention, and it changes the game on the profitable the profitability profile of your organization. And yet, honestly, all of us are focused on the top of the funnel. Yeah? Because we can measure return on advertising spend. More about that later. Technology is there to empower, but too often gets in the way. And I'm using a little video here from an example of when the technology hasn't understood the problem that it's trying to solve. So have a look at this example, isn't it? Mark talked earlier about his experience of going in a traditional taxi versus an Uber. And that's what all these disruptive brands like Uber, Amazon, the neobanks, the online banks, the Monzo banks, the Starling banks, the Revoluts, they've understood the problem they need to solve for us as consumers. They've understood the experience we really want to have, rather than the one that's been foisted upon us previously. Who knows what that is? Well, that was a very good bar. I like that. Whoever that was, I think you missed your vacation. Maybe there's an opportunity to do a little bit of voiceover work. Yes, it is a line of sheep. And we can be a bit sheepish in the world of retail. Ship from store, click and collect, the endless aisle, free delivery, free returns. I'm not a fan of following what everybody else does. I'm not suggesting these things are not relevant for your business. But one size does not fit all. You need to work out what is relevant for your customers. And 73% of consumers expect organizations to understand their unique needs and expectations, and of course, to meet those needs and expectations. As Jeff Bezos of Amazon would say, start with the customer and work backwards. As Martin Newman would say, start with customer lifetime value and work backwards. Not with ROAS, not with return on advertising spend, but how much are these customers worth to you over a number of years? Then you can make better decisions about what you invest in and why. Tony Hsieh, sadly no longer with us, rest in peace, the founder of Zappos, one of the most customer-centric brands in the world, the footwear retailer acquired by Amazon a number of years ago. It's a great line. Customer service shouldn't be a department, it should be the entire company. I agree with that 100%. To the point where I created this. This is my framework for customer centricity. It's probably a bit broader than you would imagine. And I'm going to bring some of this to life now when I talk through my 10 ROIs, but very, very quickly. How can any business be truly customer-centric if it doesn't look after its people, if it doesn't put its own colleagues first and create an environment where they can thrive? Understanding the needs of customers and what their wants really are, giving the customer a voice has to be key. Technologies that empower both customers and colleagues. So again, unlike the video there, how can you create solutions that actually make my life a bit easier? Turning up where your customers are. We've heard a couple of examples of that already. You know, even from Google with regards to products and where your products show up. The more places you show up, the more sticky you will become with your customers. Purpose, values, and social responsibility, and diversity and inclusion are really important to me, and I'll bring them to life in a very vivid way. I've sat on a number of retail boards, and I'm pretty confident today that although boards are taking these subjects, these issues more seriously, I still think there's a degree of paying a bit of lip service to it. I won't go through the rest of them because I'm going to bring them to life in a minute. Brands that prioritize customer centricity are 60% more profitable. It feels like customer centricity as a buzzword has almost replaced omnichannel and digital transformation, which is a good moment for me, given that it's everything I talk about and have done for about 20 odd years. Who wants to hear a secret? Too late in the day? Secret, anybody? Secret? Yes, yes. You're very timid. Return on investment is no longer relevant. I've got 10 new ROIs that I think will help you to build genuine, meaningful customer lifetime value, okay? So let me bring this to life for you. New ROI number 1 is return on inspiration. If your people aren't inspired to turn up at work, then what have you done to your culture and to your organization? As Peter Drucker, the great strategist, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can invest millions with the biggest management consultancies known to man around the world in the most amazing looking strategy documents. But in reality, half the time, they're not worth the paper they're printed on, unless you can actually turn them into life. Because actually, culture at the end of the day is the thing that really will be the core driver for whether you succeed or fail as an organization. And according to Gallup, and this is really sad when I first read this research, only 15% of employees are engaged in the global workplace. 15%! That means that 85% are disengaged, right? They're just turning up. They're trying to survive. We've probably all had jobs where all we try to do is survive, right, from one paycheck to the next. But I'd hate to think that that's the case for most people, and that's what it is today. In the States, there's about 35% of people feel engaged, and in the UK, 8%. There you go. We've got some work to do. In businesses with great customer experience, employees are 1.5 times more engaged, right? It kind of goes hand in hand, because if the business is great, it's really focusing on customer experience, there's probably a good chance it's empowering its people, and it's got a good culture, and it's doing a lot of the right things. Now, I don't know whether you know this, only 30% of women in e-commerce roles would feel comfortable talking about health issues at work. I think that's quite sad, that in 2023, we don't have environments that are welcoming from a health and well-being point of view, or provide a safe place for women to talk about their health issues. Did you know the average pay gap, gender pay gap at the moment globally, is still 17%? Why is it in this day and age? It ranges actually from anywhere from 3% to 51%, depending upon the country you're looking at. But why is it in 2023 women don't earn the same money as men for doing the same job? Now, a business that does have a great culture is Timson. I shared a lot of that with my friends and colleagues here who came along yesterday, or attendees who came along yesterday to my little MBA day. And this is their upside-down management model. And what this is basically saying, again, going back to your strategy decks, go back to your business and look at the strategy in the business. You'll probably find some posters around that talks about, the mission and the values of the organization. But in most businesses, this inverted pyramid would be the other way around, right? The board would be on the top, or the executive team, followed by the senior leadership team, followed by middle management, followed by everyone else in the business, and followed somewhere down the bottom of the pecking order by customers. But what they're saying is actually, we're here as the leaders of our business to facilitate you, our colleagues, to deliver the best possible experience for our customers. And they walk this in everything they do. Every single person that works on the front line of their branches, whether they've been there for 1 day, 1 minute, 1 week, or 10 years, they're all empowered to change prices. Remember what I was saying earlier? They're all empowered to change prices, to offer discounts. They're like a Mr. Minute. You have Mr. Minute in Australia, I believe. Yeah, it's like a Mr. Minute. You get your keys cut, your shoes rehealed, and so on and so forth. Total empowerment given to every person in that business. No need to ask for permission. They can ask for forgiveness if they get it wrong, but they don't have to ask for permission. This was a tweet from James Timson, who is now 4th or 5th family generation of this family business running it. He's the CEO. Good to see Darren today, who's very proud of his new teeth, that our dreams come true scheme paid for. He said he's now happy to smile in public, and his confidence levels are sky high. A great result for a great colleague. It's an amazing, amazing organization with a great culture. So, return on inspiration, ROI number 1. ROI number 2, return on integrity. 68% of customers won't buy from companies with poor ethics. Who remembers the Volkswagen emissions scandal of 2015? Right? We all remember that, don't we? It's pretty significant. Big global brand lying to consumers, lying to the market about the level of emissions from some of their cars. That was our share price up there, 2014, 2015. It has never, ever recovered. It's never got back. It's got close once or twice, but it's never recovered. Now, does Volkswagen make bad cars? I don't think so. German engineering and all that, pretty good cars, pretty robust, but people lost trust. People lost trust in their business. 80% of customers are more loyal to companies with good ethics, right? So it pays to have good ethics. IKEA are committed to helping disadvantaged people find work in retail, including people with disabilities, migrants, and refugees. In the UK, we're trying to keep refugees out. IKEA are saying, actually, we'll help you find work and make a living and be able to support yourself. They have fans. They don't have customers. Their fans love them, and they have 32 million of them on Facebook. And I genuinely believe a lot of that is down to the fact that they are a good business with a good culture, because it manifests itself in so many things that they do. Oh, and by the way, they made a gross profit last year of nearly $14 billion. Patagonia give away $10 million of sales from Black Friday every year, and then they gave the business away. The founder of the business donated it to a number of charitable trusts, all focused on improving the environment. Timson again, this is outside some of their stores. If you're unemployed and you need an outfit cleaned, give us your outfit and we'll dry clean it for you. They're not taking any money for that. Now, they do have a dry cleaning business because they're a successful family, but they're not trying to sell dry cleaning. They're just doing the right thing. They're being socially responsible, and they're looking after people who need help. New RI number 3, return on inclusion. Right? Again, as somebody who's sat on a number of boards, I absolutely guarantee you, most of your boards in Australia right now will be looking at diversity and inclusion as a tick box exercise. Yeah? We need to do the minimum. We need a quota. Or there are very, very few businesses that are actually recognize the opportunity to make this a core part of their DNA. I challenge you to go away from here today and go onto Google and do some research. And I'm telling you, every study you will ever read will tell you that a more diverse and inclusive business is a more sustainably successful one over a longer period of time. It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? Because you get diverse opinions, right? And people working together, you become more creative, more innovative. You solve problems more effectively. But most businesses, I believe, that's a pair of lips giving service, are paying lip service to it. Apple. I'm not here to call out Apple. Apple are an amazing business and, of course, one of the most successful brands in the world. But, you know, they made a comment when the whole Black Lives Matter movement became a serious thing a few years ago about, like a lot of brands, right, being in steadfast support of that community and all the rest of it. And this is actually an updated view of the executive profiles at Apple, right? There's 5 women in an executive team of 18 people, and there isn't one single black face. I think we're too quick to celebrate mediocrity. So I read recently one of the UK retail bulletins, right, that last year, 30% of new CEOs in retail were women. Praise be. Hallelujah. Yeah, last time I checked, 51% of the population are women. So, yeah, it's moving in the right direction, but there's a hell of a long way to go. Women drive 70 to 80% of all consumer purchasing decisions. Women rule the roost. Whether we like to believe it or not, guys in the audience, the reality is they do. I mentioned this last year. I've got a wife, just one, as far as I'm aware, currently, 2 daughters and a dog called Lulu, and they all make all the big decisions. I largely go along with all of it, right? Global average of 20% of board seats are held by women. That's up 2.8% since 2018. Fantastic. And if that rate were to continue, we could expect to reach parity by 2045. That's a nonsense. Women make 70 to 80% of the purchase decisions. And yet we're not going to get to parity on gender, never mind any other form of diversity, until 2045. And yet higher gender diversity executive teams outperform their peers on profitability by 21%. All the stuff I'm talking about today, it's not rocket science, and it's all proven. It all works, and it makes a difference to the profitability of a business. Now, I shared this last year, and I remember I said there's 4.4 million disabled people in Australia, and you were all kind of looking around the room thinking, what's this daft Scotsman talking about? I don't see too many disabled people in the room. But of course, we're not just talking about overt disabilities. The reality is 10 to 15% of the people in the room right now will have probably some form of hidden disability, be that visual impairment, hearing impairment, Crohn's, or whatever that happens to be. It's 18% of your population. I worked that out as a percentage of retail, that it's a $74 billion opportunity. How many of you are actually getting after that? How many of you are proving to the disabled community that you're there for them, that you understand them, and you communicate with them, and you create experiences that are relevant for them? And I know, if you're being honest, in your heart of hearts, you would say, probably not many of you. This is the Gymshark store in Regent Street in London. Most of you will know Gymshark. Activewear, gymwear brand. Somebody shared a very funny Australian activewear video with me recently. Activewear. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's quite amusing. Everyone in Sydney seems to be wearing activewear. Don't know what it is. Must be the weather. I walked into that store, and that's the first thing I saw, and I nearly cried. I honestly nearly cried. I just thought it was just, I've never been in a retail business and seen a business have a disabled mannequin in the store. But the reality is, disabled people work out. Disabled people go to gyms. They might be in a wheelchair, but they still want to look good. And that one photo, that one image tells me everything I need to know about why Gymshark is such a successful brand. I then saw this apparel brand, Lindex European brand, and I just saw this the other week on the website, and I was so pleased to see another brand and, putting diversity and inclusion really at the heart of their visual communications, their marketing communications, and telling this community that they're accessible for everyone and they're there for everyone. This is me at the world-famous Glasgow Celtic Football Club. So I walk the talk on all this stuff, by the way. I'm not just telling you what I think you should do. I do all of this, right? I have an involvement with Celtic. I'm called a global Celt. Anyway, long story short, I had the opportunity to support this initiative. Callum McGregor's our captain in the middle. This is a young man called Clark who has autism. And I worked with the team at Celtic to look after the needs of disabled fans. And we produced a pack for fans with autism. Going to a football ground with 60,000 people can be quite a daunting experience. And so it's got little toys and gadgets that enables fans with autism to maybe be distracted if things get a bit stressful. We also designed invisible lanyards so that the stewards at the ground could identify people that might need a bit more help at certain points. And this is L'Oreal. Will soon be launching their Hapta device, the world's first handheld motorized makeup applicator designed for users with limited mobility. Research shows that only 4% of beauty and personal care brands create products catering for physical disabilities. So again, another brand that's walking the talk.
Oh,
have a look at this.
Go to Specsavers.
No, I don't go to Specsavers.
Not anymore.
The thing is,
Oh dear.
I don't go to Specsavers, actually. Oh, behave.
Should have gone to Specsavers. No. They come to me. Oh, hi there, come on in.
We're there for people who can't go to Specsavers too. We thought you should know. To see if you're eligible, search Specsavers Home Visits.
There you go. So you have a disability or a mental health issue, don't worry. Specsavers in the UK, I don't know if they're doing it here, but in the UK, they will come to you. Now, I don't even know if they make money, right, or profit on a per-visit basis, but can you imagine the goodwill that that engenders both with the people that they're serving and helping with an eye test and all their friends and family? Last time I checked, Specsavers were quite a successful business. Number 4 in my new ROIs is return on image. Conscious consumption, right? Like it or not, that's where we're heading. We all have guilt about what we're buying and from whom we buy it and what the impact of that might be on the planet. We do. Some of us have a lot of it, some of us have none of it. I swapped my fancy Porsche for an Audi GT e-tron, which is also quite a fancy car, but I've gone all electric. And that is the way we're going. So whatever you sell, you're going to have to really think about not only selling new products, but offering customers the ability to buy second-hand products, pre-loved products, upcycle products, or products to rent. Now, you may or may not know this, but resale, the resale category, the circular economy, the products that are sold in that market are growing at 5 times the rate in the UK of normal retail. And I'm sure that will be the same here. So again, it's a significant opportunity to embrace. Even brands like Farfetch sell your designer bags. Decathlon, the big sports retailer, they reversed the signage on 4 of their stores in Belgium to promote the fact that you could bring your products back and they would buy them off you and they would repurpose them and resell them for customers. Thought that was quite clever. Not really sure how to pronounce that. Null paste. But Belgium's a funny place. Maybe they can do that quite easily. Zara, again, fast fashion brands under huge pressure to address this. Now they have an app where you can have your garment repaired. They have a resale platform. You can get some money back for your old Zara products, or you can donate those products to people who can't afford to buy Zara in the first place. Have a look at this.
They said I was too pretty to fight. Now she can't fight. You're gonna mess up that beautiful face.
They said I was too fat. Only skinny girls can dress well.
On me regarde la tête aux pieds. Comment peut-elle être avocate?
They said I didn't dress for my age.
They said my nose was too prominent.
They said I was too masculine.
They thought the catcalling was a compliment. He said, you can fix those teeth quite easily.
Boyish and ugly. When they were talking about female, they weren't talking about me.
This was not pretty.
They would holler from across the street.
Look sophisticated.
Embarrassing nose.
Too chubby. Was too skinny.
Manly.
Crazy hair.
Never looked good.
Too wild.
Too cute.
Too beautiful.
Too fat.
He said.
They said.
She said. I said, no way.
You aren't me. I'm me.
I'm not going to be defined by anyone's expectations.
I don't dress my age. I dress myself the way I am.
Because my face has nothing to do with my boxing. I'm ranked #1 in the country, #2 in the world.
As a fashion blogger, my style is 100% unapologetic.
I don't want to change my teeth.
Le physique n'a rien à voir avec mes compétences.
This is me. This is my hair.
My beauty.
My beauty.
My beauty.
My say.
This was a very successful campaign for Dove. You may or may not know this. They were worth $200 million in the 1990s, in the early 1990s. They're worth over $5 billion today as a brand, right? So all this stuff pays. These businesses are socially responsible. They have purpose. They have good values. They have high integrity, and they're highly successful. New ROI number 5, return on intervention. It doesn't matter what you sell, anyone can turn a customer into a fan. And what I mean by that is, not every single customer will become a fan, but it's the byproduct of what you do, how you deal with them, how you communicate with them, how you create an environment and a customer experience that's relevant for different customers, that will change how they feel about you, from something that's really just transaction orientated to having a bit more of an emotional connection. But most businesses don't have customers. They do have customers. They don't have fans. And that's because they view customers as a cost center, not a profit center. How could you view a customer as a cost center? Any boards right now that have a line on their P&L that say that customers are a cost center, honestly, they're heading towards oblivion, right? You might need to think about changing your jobs. And if you're on the board, you want to tell them, you want to make sure you do something differently. I'm going to tell you a quick story about a bag. This is not a Birkin bag. It's not a Burger King bag. Some of you will know it's a Balenciaga. Now, going back 9 years ago, I was in the Bal Harbour shopping center in Miami. I had never heard of Balenciaga, to be honest with you, at that point. And we're walking around this very expensive shopping mall, really all these big luxury brands. And we walked in the door of this particular store. And I'm going to warn the ladies in the audience now, you need to just watch what you're thinking, because I can read women's minds, as you're about to find out. So we walked into this store, and my wife, Laura, my eldest daughter, and Antonia picked up this bag. And they went, oh, look, oh, it's beautiful. Oh, no, look, it's so much cheaper than it is back home in Selfridges. And it was just about coming up for my 20th wedding anniversary. So I said to Laura, Laura, do you want that for your wedding anniversary present? And she went, no. In fact, if you buy that for me, I'll be really angry with you, Martin. Now, I knew, and you know, that what she really meant was, yes, but don't buy it here. Surprise me when we get back home. It's all about the surprise and delight. So we got back home, bag, right? Monday morning, I'm looking at my diary, I'm thinking I'm going to Selfridges to buy that bag. My anniversary's on Wednesday. I'm rammed. There's no way I can get anywhere near Selfridges. I'm thinking I'll buy it online. I go onto the Selfridges website. At that time, they couldn't guarantee delivery before Wednesday. Disaster. Then I found Matches Fashion. They could deliver between 6 and 9 o'clock in the evening on Tuesday evening. Perfect. Looked at my diary. I'm out for dinner with a very important client. It's been in my diary for months, 6 months or more. I thought there's no way I'm cancelling that. So I called their contact centre and I explained my predicament. And I said, I'm getting divorced if I don't get this bag on time. But I cannot guarantee to get there between 6 and 9. But I can pretty confidently get there between 8 and 9. Can your courier deliver the bag then? Really sorry, sir, but our courier doesn't offer that service. Right? This is in dollars, about a $2,000 bag. I'm like, hello, say that again? So I said, my name's Martin Newman. Here's my number. Will you do me the courtesy of asking the question? Go and ask your courier, right? Do you think he even phoned me back? No, he didn't even phone me back. I bought the bag because, believe me, at this point, I'm stressed out of my head and I'm totally locked into buying it. And I got home about 7:30 and it turned up not long after. But I promise you, he knew nothing about that. And I contacted Ruth Chapman, the founder of Matches Fashion, and I said, that's about one thing and one thing only. You don't have a culture of empowerment. He actually thought he was doing the right thing because he was working by the rule book. OMG. If that was any of your businesses, you'd have gotten your car, probably, and driven it to my house. I know I would have. The purpose of a business, I believe, is to create a customer who create other customers. That should be your job. You make fans of customers, build some emotional connection with them, and they will bring other people to your brand because they will become your advocates. They'll tell others how great you are. The next ROI is interaction, return on interaction. Another quick story. I was on the advisory board of a business called Wiggle, now called Wiggle Chain Reaction Cycles. Biggest online cycling brand in the world, I believe. When I joined, the CEO was doing a presentation. He was putting out lots of stats and KPIs. And he told us that he had nearly 1 million lapsed customers. And I was like horrified. Now, this is my first advisory board meeting. I didn't want to say anything. But I went away and I was scratching my head and I was thinking about this. And a friend of mine who was a keen cyclist said, I'm going to show you this email to tell you one of the things that's going wrong there. And his name is Keith Hamilton. He was going into a competition and he had ordered a part. They'd sent him the wrong part. And this email was going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. He was getting more and more frustrated. And he said, would you just pick up the phone and call me to arrange a convenient time to have these parts delivered? And I needed them urgently because I'm in a competition. And the email that came back said, Dear Mr. Hamilton, I'm really sorry, but at the moment, we only talk to customers through email and live chat. I kid you not. And I knew in that one piece of communication everything that was wrong with that business. There was a lot of great things about it, but the thing that was wrong with it at that time was it was an internet business that thought it could replace all forms of human interaction with technology. I said to him, have you not thought about putting in a contact center to address that? Are you mad? Do you know how many emails? We get thousands of emails every day. Can you imagine the cost of all those calls and people answering them? I said, so you've understood the cost, but you haven't looked at the benefits. Again, cost to serve mindset. 83% of customers expect to engage with someone immediately when contacting a company. right? That was definitely not the case back then. Have a look at this. That's not bad, is it? For return on involvement, right, as a marketing campaign. I reckon that had a pretty good ROI. I would imagine it also drove quite a few car crashes, to be honest, as people were kind of looking up what the hell's going on here. Omni-channel brands, people with more than one touch point, more than one sales channel. Omni-channel brands witness these benefits over single-channel sellers. 15 to 35% increase in average order values, 5 to 10% increase in profitability, and 30% higher lifetime value. So more touch points, more channels, turning up in more places ultimately leads to a better commercial performance. The next ROI is return on improvement, or return on improvements. And moving, I'm a great fan. I'm not a great fan of the term customer service. I'm a great fan of the term customer care. Because customer service doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get a very caring response when you engage with a business. So I think it drives a different mindset and a different outcome for customers. 88% of customers say the service a business offers is as important or more important than its products or services. So the service a brand offers is really important. Now, I had the privilege in 2015 of being flown to Hong Kong to talk. I got put up in the Mandarin Oriental Hotel. I realized the minute I walked in the door, I've never really stayed in a truly high-end hotel before. And that was partly because the first thing that happened when I went to reception, the person who checked me in took me to my room, showed me how everything worked, where everything was. I was like, whoa, this is amazing. This is what you get in a high-end hotel. I had a shower. Just to be clear, she left the room at that moment before I went into the shower. When I came out, I tried to get the telly working, could not get the TV to work. I thought maybe I'm just being a bit thick. Sometimes remote controls, my brain don't always get them going. Anyway, I told reception. I came back after dinner. This is on my bed from Sam Liu telling me what happened. He fixed the TV, and here's my contact details if you have any other problems. Now, some people have said to me over the years, that's a high-end hotel, they can afford to do that. What a load of tosh. That took 5 minutes to type and 10 minutes to go to the 10th floor in the Mandarin Oriental and leave that in my room. That's because he's empowered to do that. I don't think that was just about him. I think that's about the hotel. I'll tell you why. Because when I left, the bellboy who picked up my luggage, the reception staff, the person at the checkout when I was paying my bill, the reception when I was paying my bill, and the concierge, they all said to me, Mr. Newman, you've got your passport, haven't you? And you haven't left any valuables in your safe. And I realized, here's a business, going back to Generation CX, that's thought through every single conceivable customer touch point. What do we need to do to get it perfect? But also, what do we do when it goes wrong? How do we react and respond to that? Home Depot. Anyone into DIY? For you of you? Right? I'm not. I am a damage-it-yourself person. Give me a hammer, give me nails, give me even scissors, something basic, or a saw. I'll either damage myself, but I will absolutely ruin the product that I'm trying to build or create or hang on the wall or whatever, trust me. So I would want to go to a brand like Home Depot who have a home services proposition where I can find a local expert to help me do it for me rather than me doing it for myself. And you can see quite clearly there, through all the delivery options and the product pickup options and the financing, this is a service-orientated organization that understands selling stuff is just not enough. They need to go a bit further than that. Quick story about car hire, very quickly. Recently, I was in Glasgow, and I was on the EasyJet website, booking my flights, and I thought, I'm hiring a car. Oh, Green Motion, I like the sound of that, sustainable brand. I turn up at Glasgow Airport, and the first thing is, they don't actually have a facility right on the airport. It's off-site, number one. So I've got to phone them. So I phone them. Tells me it'll be there in 15 minutes to pick me up, 25 minutes. So I'm already thinking, this is maybe not quite as good as it was billed. And I walk in, and the guy says to me, have you got your passport? Huh? I'm like, passport? This is Glasgow, mate. I've just flown from London to Glasgow. Why do I need my passport? Oh, you need 2 forms of identity. What? I've hired cars all over the world, and all I've ever needed is one piece of identity with my face on it, my driving license. Then he says to me, have you got your code from the DVLA, the Driver Vehicle License Agency, right? I'm thinking, what is going on here? Is this some kind of prank? Is somebody filming this? As I'm getting more and more irate. Anyway, then he says to me, have you got your credit card? And I only have an Amex and debit cards. So I give him my Amex. No, we don't take Amex. Right, you see where this is going? He basically forces me to take a package that reduces the amount of excess on my car, right? And that was his way of essentially upselling me onto something else. There's always a ruse with these car hire companies. You compare it to Avis. One of the best advertising campaigns of all time. Avis is only number 2 in rent-a-car, but we try harder. That took heaps, as you would say locally, heaps of market share off Hertz, because they were basically saying, we're not the biggest, but we will go the extra mile for you. Very different mindset to that other mob. Return on involvement, multi-format stores. This is a small store in Colchester and Essex in England. You can go in, it's basically a vintage wear store, but you can go in and have a coffee, order a scone, have a cup of tea, sit down. On a Friday night, they clear the floor of product, they have a stage at the back, and they have bands playing, right? They've reimagined the P&L of that physical environment. As other brands have done, Lululemon. Anywhere you go around the world, Lululemon have yoga classes during the week in their stores. Burberry assign a dedicated in-staff member to every online order. So all of a sudden you've got a connection with someone in the physical environment, and that's going to drive multi-channel sales, isn't it? And I told you about the value of the value of that a minute ago. Talked much earlier about personalization and customization. This is the brand Superga. You can go in there, you can buy a new pair of shoes, and you can start to collaborate with the person in there who's doing all the creative and the different designs, and you can really personalize and customize your product. Jo Malone, where you might buy fragrance or cosmetics and beauty products. When a customer interacts with one of their staff members, and they do what they call perfume painting, right? So rather than putting it on a bit of paper, they put it on a brush. They do all this, right? I'm not going to do all the movement, but anyway, it increases conversion by 92%. That level of interaction fundamentally changes the experience for the customer and the sales opportunity. My second to last ROI is return on insight. Customer-centric brands measure what matters. You heard Mark talking about that earlier. Dreams is a brand selling mattresses, bedding, beds, was losing £50 million in 2013, pretty much bankrupt. And within a few years, making £60 million and sold for £600 million in 2021, run by a friend of mine, one of the best CEOs in the UK, Mike Logue. All because he created Pillow Talk. He captures 40% feedback from customers on a daily basis. They spend half an hour filling out a survey, telling them about what worked well and what didn't work well. And he uses that to change how the business engages with customers. I say this to everyone I talk to. When was the last time you called a lapsed customer? So when I was on the advisory board of Wiggle, I said to the CEO at the time, why don't we call 20 lapsed customers every week and ask them why they don't buy from us anymore. High net worth individuals spending tens of thousands of pounds on bikes, no longer coming to us. Why aren't they? What have we done wrong? What do we need to do to convince them back? What a great quick win to take back to your business. Your most unhappy customers are your greatest source of learning. The more unhappy somebody is, the more chances are you'll probably find out what is broken and what you can do to improve the experience. Anyone flown Ryanair? A few of you in Europe? Ryanair. This popped into my inbox a couple of months ago. Ryanair known as probably one of the worst from a customer experience point of view, almost as if they just didn't care, but still successful. But I think they've recognized that if they're going to grow to the next level and take market share, they've got to start to put customers first. So they offered me the opportunity to join their customer advisory panel. Politely turned down, but interesting nonetheless. Did customers suggest that having Pringles with smoky bacon flavour to celebrate Ramadan Mubarak? This actually happened in the UK. Do we think customers thought that was a good idea? Did we talk to customers about that? Of course we didn't. Did Electrolux talk to customers in the States about their advertising campaign? Nothing sucks like an Electrolux. Well, that'll do really well, Hank, in the US. Apart from the fact that the word sucks means crap, rubbish, basically, disaster. My final ROI, return on innovation. If you need to be 100% sure, going back to why I believe ROI on its own, return on investment, is just not good enough. If you're working for a CFO who says you have to prove the business case for every single thing you do, you will be 100% late. Have a look at this video.
What if we could create a better shopping experience for everyone? For shoppers online and those in store, for the impulsive and the more calculated. Shopping has been going through some radical changes. Remember the glory days of malls and department stores? Generic and stale stores simply don't cut it any longer. People crave real-world shopping experiences, but their habits and expectations have shifted. It's time to reimagine what's next in retail, together. If you have inspiration, it will be shoppable. Imagine a retail experience where all the world's a marketplace and people can choose their own ways to buy, when and where it suits them. What if points-based loyalty programs were replaced with rewards tied to values and beliefs? In the next, what a brand stands for isn't just an ad campaign, it's a business imperative. Rampant consumption just isn't what it used to be. The age of reuse, refill, and rent is upon us, and it's a badge of honor. What if we could create an experience where anything can be leased or subscribed to in new ways? What if stores become places of entertainment and education, where people are left with joy and inspiration, and not just a shopping bag?
Hey Jessica, welcome to the immersive 360 sound experience.
Imagine a retail landscape where brands truly understand what makes their customers tick or ticked off, and makes them feel there's always something fresh and relevant in store for them, depending on their mood, routine, tastes, or season. Welcome to smart tailoring and personal enrichment based on delight and fulfillment, not just...
Mark talked earlier about Gen Z. Gen Z can show us the way. If you want to know what the future looks like, get as close to Gen Zs as you can. These two beauties are my daughters, Saskia on the left and Tonia on the right. I get reverse mentored every single dinner than they're at home. God help me if I say the wrong thing, right? So they've taught me they've genuinely taught me what's important to them, and I think it's helped upskill me and educate me on what really matters. I'm going to finish with a short video about this generation. Have a look at this.
We're tired of being called resilient. We want support and genuine change. We're struggling with the ongoing pandemic, geopolitical conflicts, and the steep cost of living. Too many of us are living paycheck to paycheck, taking on side gigs to make ends meet, worrying about climate change, stressed and feeling burned out from the pressure of our workloads. This is our breaking point. We're reevaluating our priorities, taking a stand and leaving our jobs. We want businesses to do more, to have a purpose beyond profit and a positive impact on society, to address wealth inequality starting within their own organizations, to fight climate change through visible everyday actions, to transform the way we work, creating a balance between work and life and allowing flexibility in how, when, and where we do the job, giving people at all levels the power and opportunity to drive lasting change. We want inclusive cultures where mental health and well-being aren't stigmatized but actually prioritized. We're committed to making the world a better place. And as we become leaders, we will carry this commitment with us. We all need to work together to build a better future, a future that starts today. Will you take a stand?
There you go. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for your attention and your time. My name is Martin Newman. If you are interested, by the way, you can get a discount of my next mini MBA course with the College in Oxford. I look forward to seeing you around over the next couple of days. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a lovely evening.